Here we are. We're live for a special episode of the Pistons Talk Podcast. It's the Media Day podcast. But before we get into that, we got to talk about Sada Baby and his sudden fandom for Killian Hayes. I mean, we know about Sada Baby. Even if you don't listen to his music, you know who he is. And you know that he has a real strong disdain for Killian Hayes. And suddenly, Sada Baby is on the Killian Hayes train, even saying that he could be the third top 20 guard from the Detroit Pistons. I don't know what's going on, Anthony. I think you were right. Like, it was just all for the clicks. But what do you make of Sada Baby's sudden change of heart for Killian Hayes?
When you texted me that last night, I thought you were trolling me. You're like, dude, like, Sada Baby's talking positively about Killian. I'm like, no way. It's got to be a troll account. But I don't know, man. Like I said on Sunday, I thought it was just kind of like a media thing, just for clicks. But, I mean, maybe the Pistons told him, like, you're going to have to at least tweet out one Killian positive tweet a week if you want to keep hanging out with Isaiah Stewart and Cade Cunningham.
So that's actually my theory. Like, during the surprise birthday party for Cade Cunningham, my theory is that Cade, Sadiq Bey, and every other member of the Detroit Pistons that attended Cade's birthday party told Sada Baby to chill on Killian. Like, I can just imagine Cade walks up, puts his arm around Sada. He's like, hey, man, look, I can't keep doing these things with you. Can't keep hanging out. I can't be singing with you. That guy's my teammate. I need you to say some kind words. And then I bet Sadiq Bey walked up to him, Isaiah Stewart, Marvin Bagley. And, you know, it's Cade's birthday. He gets one wish. And I bet his wish was for Sada Baby to treat Killian Hayes with respect. That's what I think it is. I think
I mean, absolutely. I think that it's just, you know, it's a fake tough guy act to me. Like, I really don't think they hate each other at all.
I just want to know what it was about. I understand we talked about this earlier on another podcast, but I just want to know where it came from, what it stems from, even if it was just clickbait. That's fine. I just want to know where the beef started between Sada and Killian Hayes. But we don't have to keep talking about Sada, man. We can get into this Media Day stuff.
For sure.
But before we do got a little bit of news to share with you guys if you haven't been keeping up, because there is a lot of stuff coming out. James Edwards tweeted out that the Pistons will honor legend Bob Lanier all season with a 16 stripe and a night honoring him. That's pretty cool. You know, the legend, he passed away earlier in the year. The Detroit Pistons are going to honor him all season with a 16 stripe and then a night honoring him. James Edward also tweeted out injuries. Alec Burks, rehab, navicular fracture. I have no idea what that is. Nerlens Noel, plantar fasciitis, reconditioning, plantar fasciitis, nothing to deal with. It's not fun. It sucks. And then Kevin Knox, the new hero from Summer League, or really just, you know, those pickup games he was playing in, right gastric strain. Again, I have no idea what any of that is, but those three players, they are going to miss, I believe, training camp, at least the start of training camp. So might open some doors for some younger players to get some looks. And then the Detroit Pistons have exercised fourth-year team options on Sadiq Bey, Killian Hayes, and Isaiah Stewart, and then they exercised the third-year option on Cade Cunningham. So those guys are locked up for a little bit. But, yeah, that's it for news, really, unless you have anything to add, Anthony.
No, I don't. I think that's basically like all the big news. I think the fourth team options is something that I thought was pretty significant because you're locking down your core until 2023. You know, you have them for one more year to like a rookie scale deal, and you're going to have to start making some hard decisions to see who you want to keep, see who you want to give the bag to. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I was honestly kind of surprised that Killian Hayes got that fourth-year pickup. I mean, we've been through it so many times. We already know what's going on with him. So just surprised that Killian Hayes got that fourth year. But I'm happy for him. Another year in Detroit, see what he can do. So
for sure.
All right, let's get into some Media Day stuff. We have a quote from Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey says he wants to be a Detroit Piston for life in that it runs deep. Now, I do have a question for you, but I just want to say, I'm so incredibly happy with the job Troy Weaver has done. Like, not only just finding talented players, but also finding guys that like have that right mindset that want to help build the culture. You know, we get a lot of players every year saying they want to be with the team that drafted them for the entirety of their career. But rarely do you see a hometown kid coming back, playing for the hometown team, and then maybe he can make it. So my question to you is, which current players do you think will play their entire careers in Detroit? Not who you want to play their entire careers, but who you think realistically has a shot of staying in Detroit for the entirety of their careers.
I mean, I could troll and say Corey Joseph, but I mean, he hasn't played his whole career in Detroit. Like, I was actually thinking about this a lot. Like, Dave Bing didn't play his whole career in Detroit. Bob Lanier didn't play his whole career in Detroit. Like, yeah. Grant Hill didn't play his whole career in Detroit. So, like, I really don't know. Like, Jaden Ivey, like, if he really wants to be in Detroit that bad, he would probably be the first of recent memory. I'm sure there's probably one Piston that's probably in the 50s that played his whole career in Detroit that I can't, like, name off because, I'm only 30 years old and I'm not a Piston historian. But, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, a player that I, like, don't want, or maybe I want. Maybe Isaiah Livers, maybe? Like, keep him on the team.
Thank you for saying that. But I think what is probably Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars are probably the most recent Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
I mean, even Tayshaun Prince, he didn't play his entire time in Detroit. And I think it's a fair question, and it's cool that Jaden Ivey says that, but how realistic is it for a player to play for one team his entire career? I mean, you have different cities that you could live in, make a ton of money. Another team could offer you a lot of money. There could be more opportunities for sponsorships outside of Detroit. There's a lot of things that are pulling these guys in different directions, not even to mention the camps that they're a part of where, those guys are talking to them, daily, helping influence their decisions. But, I'm not going to put too much stock in what Jaden Ivey said. I'm not going to hold it to him like 10 years from now if he decides to go and play for like the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm like, but dude, you said you wanted to play here for the entirety of your career. Like, you got to keep your word, Jaden Ivey. But I don't know. I kind of have like a short list of guys. I only really have two players that are currently on the Pistons that I could see playing their entire career in Detroit, and that's Saddiq Bey and Isaiah Livers. Those are the two that I think have the best chance of playing in Detroit for the entirety of their career.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas, and look how long ago that was. And just in today's NBA, like you mentioned, like, there's so much money to be made in the NBA. I mean, even a 15th man is getting like a vet's minimum, and that's like around $1 to $2 million. Like,
yeah,
you don't really see like Dirk Nowitzki's, coming to the NBA, and they're a for lifer, like a Kobe Bryant. Like, they were on their team from their rookie year until they're retired. I mean, if Jaden Ivey does do that, I think a lot of Pistons fans would appreciate him staying on the Detroit Pistons for as long as, his career does last. But, I mean, it's tough to say if he'll be in Detroit his whole career.
If you had to put odds on Cade Cunningham staying in Detroit, like, what kind of odds would you put on that for the entirety of his career?
Oh, entirety of his career.
Let's say he plays like 16 years in the NBA. What are the odds that he plays 16 years in Detroit? Because I personally believe, we might get like 7 to 10 years of Cade Cunningham before he leaves for Houston.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I'd probably say 50-50. Like, it all depends on how Troy Weaver, attacks another draft and free agency and how he built the team around Cade. I think the next 1 to 2 years will kind of tell you, like, the direction the team's going in and the direction of how they want to build around Cade Cunningham. But, I mean, I would probably say 50-50. Cade doesn't really seem like the type of guy that's clout chasing or ring chasing or, like, he likes Detroit. He's got family here. Because I know, like, when I was on a podcast with Sean Murphy, Ashton said that they actually have family up here in Detroit.
Oh, that's cool.
So, like, I didn't actually know. So I was like, that's actually pretty cool. I think Cade's a pretty loyal guy. So, I mean, I don't even want to have that conversation or thinking about it right now, man. You give me depression on a Tuesday night.
I can't help it. I apologize. But no, I mean, I will say, though, out of, like, this group of players, I think it's so cool how Cade, Isaiah Stewart, Saddiq Bey, Livers, Jaden Ivey, Duren even, that they are, like, embracing the culture in the city of Detroit, and that Like, I mean, we were just talking about Sada Baby, at the beginning of the podcast. I think it's pretty cool that these Pistons and artists, like hip hop artists, music artists, they're all hanging out in the city of Detroit. I think that's pretty cool, because I feel like we've never had that in Detroit. Like it wasn't like, Chauncey Billups and Eminem were hanging out in the heyday, but here we got Sada Baby throwing a birthday party for Cade Cunningham.
I mean, I feel like if they were in the social media age, we would see a lot of what we're seeing now, and probably even more. Because I could kind of tell you a little story. Braylon Edwards, obviously, former Michigan wide receiver. When we had Richard Hamilton on the show this past year, they said that they used to see Braylon in the bars all the time, like him, Ben, and Chauncey. And he wasn't old enough to drink, and they would kick him out of the bars to kind of like keep an eye on him. So I mean, like, could you kind of imagine like the social media age in like the early to mid 2000s? Like, we would probably see a bunch of TMZ stuff, and I think that the only reason why we're seeing it now is because everyone has a cell phone, and everything's so transparent now. Where like we just kind of we show everything what we're doing. So I mean, I think, past teams like the Bad Boys, if social media was around during those days, would have loved to see Dennis Rodman on social media. That would have been freaking wild.
That would have been bad. That would have been crazy. Or even like Rasheed Wallace, like tweeting out about the refs, after a game. That would be, that would be perfect. No, I mean, I actually think you're right. Like, that's a great point. Like, social media wasn't really that big of a thing, or even really a thing back then. So, I don't know. Maybe they did hang out. I just wish we would get more of these stories from those. I want to hear some more stories about Braylon Edwards being kicked out of bars. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I remember when he like kind of said that, like when he was live, I was like, oh crap, like they were like looking out for him and stuff. Like that's really cool. Like I just think of like LeBron James with the flip phone at like WWE, because you kind of have to remember that like they had like freaking like Motorola razors, like when they were coming into the league.
Yeah, he had the flip phone. He was putting CDs in a CD player. Yeah, totally different time back then. But yeah, you're right, man. The whole thing about the social media age. Maybe they did hang out with Eminem back in the day. Who knows? All right, so we got Duren. He answers a question. This was tweeted out by Omari Sankofa II. It's Jalen Duren giving his thoughts on the possibility of spending time with the Motor City Cruise. He says, I haven't heard too much about it, but whatever they need, I'm here to develop and grow as a player, to be the best player I can be. Whatever they feel is the best route for me to take is the route I'm taking. So I said this before, I think Duren's going to play in the G League a little bit to start the season. Even though he dropped this quote, I'm still reading it as like they have talked to him. Maybe they haven't talked to him a ton about it, but I think they've shared with him that there is a small chance that he'll be playing with the Crews. And I think it's kind of an odd question, though, to ask him, because we really haven't heard too much about him playing with the Motor City Crews.
If Kelly Olynyk was still on this team, I would say absolutely there's a chance. But I think what Dwayne Casey might do with this situation with Duren is Motor City Cruise is right down the street at Wayne State University, right? Yeah. That's where they work out. He's just probably going to have him do 2 practices a day. Practice with the Crews in the morning, practice with the Pistons in the evening, and then he's going to get twice the amount of experience working out, reads, sets, because the Motor City Crews and the Detroit Pistons are coached the same way. It's not different. It's the same kind of verbiage with Dwayne Casey and who's ever, coaching the Motor City Crews. So I think it's just more experience for him. I don't think he will suit up for a Motor City Crews game, though. I really don't.
Really? You don't think he plays 1 minute for the Motor City Crews?
No, I think what they'll probably do is just have him practice with the Motor City Crews guys just to get more experience so he can develop faster.
Well, unlike Sada, I'm not going to walk back what I said about Jalen Duren playing with the Motor City Crews. I'm going to say that I still believe he plays a few minutes for the Motor City Crews. Maybe not as much as I had probably insinuated at the beginning of when I was dropping that fire take. It was I just think he'll probably be at least a few minutes. I think I could see him doing what you're saying, like the practices with the Crews and the practices with the Pistons, because they do run both teams the same. But I really wouldn't be surprised if he's playing 2 games, because there's been guys in the past that have played for the G League and then suited up for a professional game as well. just a couple hours later. I could see Duren doing something like that.
Yeah, I can't really think of a lottery pick that high playing. I mean, like, if you want to count Henry Ellenson, I guess, or Stanley Johnson or Sekou, I don't really think they're going to use Duren that way because I think even Hamid Diallo said it in his presser that Duren's already blocking his shots like left and right. He's like, and it's hard blocking some of my shots. So I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I would not be surprised if he's fighting with playing time with Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, it's hard to block Hami's shot because it's different every time he shoots the ball.
Exactly.
That's a bad joke. No, I'm not trying to deny Duren's talent. Like, I know he's a very talented player. It's just the inexperience. You know what I'm saying? I don't want him to get into bad habits. And I understand you can fix bad habits by having a guy play, but it's very easy for him to slide into, like, worse bad habits, like really bad habits for a professional basketball player. I just don't want to see that. I would rather have him build up and come along slowly and just have him be like a monster when he finally gets to play real minutes for the Detroit Pistons. I also don't want like fans to turn on him. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really high on him. And we know Detroit, we know the fans. Like 1 minute they love you, the next moment they don't want anything to do with you. Look how people turned on Blake Griffin when, he dipped out and, went to Brooklyn. So it happens.
I mean, I think the main difference, like if Stan Van Gundy was still the coach, I would 100% be with you on having him in the G League. But I think one thing Dwayne Casey does really well is he doesn't let you develop bad habits. Like if you make a mistake, you're coming out the game. Like he did it with Killian his rookie year. He even did it with Cade. I mean, he forced Corey Joseph to be in the backcourt with Cade Cunningham to kind of, show him like, hey, I'm going to place a veteran with you to kind of show you like how you're going to play the game for a full, 48 minutes. So I think Casey, he's raved about him, comparing him to Sean Kemp. I think he's really ecstatic about this kid. But like I said, if he does play time in the G League, I will have to admit that I was wrong and you were right.
Well, be prepared. I'm just letting you know that it's going to happen. I have full faith that Duren will play a little bit in the G League for the Motor City Cruise. We will see. But I have to believe I'm right. So here we go. All right. James Edwards. He tweeted a video of Killian Hayes shooting. James Edwards captioned the video. Yeah, Killian definitely did change his release. Did you watch the video? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I did watch the video, and it's funny because if you do follow Killian on social media, he's been working a lot with his coach, and they've kind of been tweaking with not so much his shot, but more the release of getting it off quicker. And his shot does look a lot quicker now. We didn't get to see any shots in Rico Hines. He was just, pulling his Tony Snell, just running through the gym back and forth. But his release does look a little bit quicker. I don't know if that's going to affect him scoring more, but any kind of positive news of him working is positive news for me.
Before I share my thoughts on the shot, did you read any of the comments, like the shooting coaches in those comments? And I say no. Shooting coaches is one of the, to me, it's funny. Like, I played basketball since I was 5 years old. Like, but I am far from an expert. I'm never going to tell anybody like, hey, I've been playing for a long time. Let me coach you on how to shoot your jumper. I'm reading some of these comments. I'm like, man, look at his feet rotate. I'm like, dude, what are you guys watching? Like, they're talking about his feet. They're talking about his body. They're talking about how only the elbow needs to be square with the hoop and not the feet. And I'm like, dude, none of you guys know what you're talking about when it comes to shooting the basket. But I just wanted to get that out there, too, just because I was laughing pretty hard at some of those comments. But Killian Hayes' jumper does look different. And the one thing that I've noticed from it, and again, this is just a small detail, is that he's not fading back as much. Like, I always noticed, even when he was shooting straight up, he would almost, like, if you can see my hand, like, kind of lean back, even though the ball was going this way. It just seems like now he's jumping straight up with it, and there's barely any lean to the, like, fade in his shot. Like, he's jumping up straighter, and I think he's getting, like, a better, more consistent shot by going straight up instead of fading back.
Yeah, I mean, like, when he first came into the league, you're absolutely right. Like, sometimes his body, like, he wouldn't jump straight up and down. It would kind of be sideways, or he tried to, like, do, like, this kicking motion where, like, when he would shoot the ball, like coming straight up and down is very crucial as a shooter. Like you've played, anyone that's played basketball, any kind of basketball coach will tell you, from the high school level to the college level, that you need to be, square up. And, he has worked on, squaring up his body. There was one point of the season last year, before he had his thumb injury, he was leading the Detroit Pistons in three-point shooting, and he was shooting close to 40%.
I remember this.
So, I think, like I said, he's such a project player, and if we're patient enough for him to develop some kind of offense, he could be a very dangerous player off the bench for the Pistons.
Are you more impressed with, like, the jumper looking different, or, like, the confidence that people are saying he's been playing with since the end of the season?
I think it's more the confidence. I mean, I go back to the OKC game where he had 26 points from, I want to say, it might have been a year or two ago. I don't even remember, but I think that was kind of the tipping point for him, of him getting more confidence in himself. And, it seems like when we were tanking over the past 2 years, like they were giving him free reign, and like he was being more aggressive, getting to the basket, trying to finish with both hands, chucking up like 20 shots a game. Like he doesn't do that. He shoots like maybe 3 or 4 times a game. Like, I think Pistons fans just want to see him be more aggressive. And I think you probably do too.
Oh, no, I mean, 100%. Like, I want, like, because I keep flipping on Killian. Like, one moment I can't stand the dude, and then the next moment I'm like, I want to defend him with all my honor. With everything that I have inside of me, I want to defend Killian sometimes. But then other times I'm like, nah, dude, just get rid of him already. I don't want to watch this anymore. It's so, like, I haven't felt this conflicted about a player in so long. It's crazy. Like, a couple, like, I feel like maybe like 10 years ago, after the second year, Killian wouldn't even be in Detroit. I feel like we wouldn't even be giving him, the Pistons wouldn't be giving him this much time if this was like 10 years ago. So to see him get a third and then possibly even a fourth year in Detroit after, like, I mean, I know he's dealt with injuries, but with the shooting woes, the lack of confidence, the lack of initiative on offense when it comes to scoring the ball, he would be out. Like, you would say, this is a broken player. We don't want to do anything with them. Killian is showing them something in practice where they're like, we got to hold on to this kid. Because if he figures it out, he's going to be special. And I don't know. I'm just hoping that he figures it out. I would rather the Pistons have a problem having too much talent than getting lottery picks wrong. I would much rather have that. So I'm all in on Killian doing this, but I want to answer my question. Am I more surprised by the change in his jumper or the confidence with which people are talking about? It's 100% the confidence, man. Like, when you're telling me this kid is like, going into practice and like trying to run things, that is something I like to hear. That's better to me than a jumper, because even if you shoot funky, as long as it goes in, as long as you shoot it with confidence, you're not afraid to take those shots, you're a much better basketball player, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And like to your point, I think Killian Hayes is going to have a long career. I think he'll always have a spot on an NBA team because he does two things that NBA teams look for in a point guard: defense and playmaking.
Yep.
And they could live with the shot. I mean, Rajon Rondo never really developed a jump shot in his NBA career. Won an NBA championship with the Boston Celtics, and he's always been one of the most sought-out backup point guards in free agency. So, I mean, if that's Killian's role, I'm happy with it. I'm cool with it. And,
I mean, Killian's a big point guard. Like, we're talking about him like he's a 6'2" guy. He's a 6'5" point guard. Like, and he's lefty. He has a thick body. Like, he can play outside of the point guard, too. I think you're right. I think he's going to have a long career in the NBA. Even if he never lives up to being the 7th overall pick, it's fine. I think he's going to be in the NBA for a long time. I do want to say, though, like, it's funny when you're online and you see people being like, what are we going to do if Killian gets good? Is Killian, Jaden Ivey, and Cade, can all three of them even play together? 100% all three of those guys can play together. There's enough size between the three of them that it could work if it does work that way.
Oh, they will play together, too. Dwayne Casey, like, his red flag, 3 point guard lineups. It's going to happen. I'm just waiting to see how long it actually lasts. I give him about a week before he tries it.
You think it's just a week into the season that we see a 3 point guard line?
Absolutely. I mean, he did it in Toronto so much with Van Vliet and Lowry, and I think Corey Joseph was there at the time. I mean, he used to run it all the time. It's just, trying to, outpace a team, get more points in transition. Like, that's just something that he has experimented with. And he even teased it in his presser with Jaden Ivey. Like, are you going to run 3 point guard lineups with, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, and Killian Hayes? He's like, oh, we'll have to wait and see. Like, he's going to do it.
No, yeah, he's saying, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see, but you're going to be disappointed because I'm taking out Ivy and I'm putting in Corey Joseph. And we're going 3 guards, Cade, Kojo, and Killian Hayes. That you know that's going to be the 3-guard lineup he throws out there for the first time. It's not going to be Ivy, Killian, and Cade. It's going to be Kojo, Cade, and Killian Hayes. You know it, too. You don't feel it.
You're sick.
I am very sick. All right, so Dwayne Casey, this is probably my favorite quote. We were talking about this a lot. And Dwayne Casey said that this current group of Pistons is his most talented roster. There's no way this is the most talented roster that Dwayne Casey has ever coached in Detroit. What was the team you were pointing out to me last night, your Pistons team that you think is better than this current group?
I want to get the full quote because I don't want to misquote Dwayne Casey. So he said, "This is the most talent we've had since I've been here and the youngest talent." So
caveat, okay, the youngest.
So in terms of like just his Detroit tenure, I think probably the best roster he's had was his first season where they went 41-41 with Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin, and he had some key guys off the bench. I think that was his most talented roster, but not his youngest roster. This is definitely probably the youngest roster he's probably had. And I was looking back, probably since his Minnesota days. So that's something that. Hold on, man. I gotta take care of these stupid bots in the YouTube chat, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh man, but yeah, getting back to like his comments, I think it is probably his most talented and youngest roster that he's ever coached before.
Yeah, I get it being like a young, talented roster, and I mean, I guess I don't know. Is he saying talented and just watch for this team in a couple of years, or is he just saying? I mean, I don't know. I was reading that quote when you were talking to me. I'm like, there's no way. I get it though. You got Cade, you got Sadiq, you got Duren and Ivy. Those are four very talented basketball players. I get it. But to say that they're the most talented is just crazy by Dwayne Casey, I believe. And I get that caveat of it being the youngest, but like I'm just looking at that. I mean, and maybe they are because the Detroit Pistons have been bad for so long with Dwayne Casey as the coach. So maybe it is the most talented, but I just have a hard time believing this is the most talented Pistons roster he's ever had.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's ever had a player as talented as Cade Cunningham. I mean, Cade Cunningham went from being ranked like 60th in the ESPN Top 100 to 35th.
Yeah, he jumped up.
And like in a year's time, like who's to say he can't be top 15 next year?
That's true. That's true.
Like I think Cade is probably the most talented player he's ever coached, probably up there with DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Garnett.
Ooh, wow, that's awesome.
And Sean Kemp too. I mean, you got to throw him in there. I mean, Dwayne Casey's coached a lot of talented players throughout his career.
We're just completely forgetting Blake Griffin. Like, all these talented guys except for Blake Griffin.
We don't talk about BG on this podcast.
All right. You're fair. I've done it twice. I apologize. So let me ask you, how good would an all-time Dwayne Casey team be? Like, we're talking, we only can pick from teams that he was the head coach for. That's it. And,
like a starting five?
Yeah, we can do a starting five. I got a bench too. But
okay.
I want to ask you this first. Who of the core on this current Pistons team would make Dwayne Casey's all-time team? Like, how many would you put from this current team?
Probably just Cade for now. Because I still have to see what Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren are. As I'm kind of thinking like of like a starting five. Like I would put Cade at the point guard because I think he's better than Kyle Lowry, even though Kyle Lowry's a champion.
So I have Cade and Sadiq Bey for the two guys from the core that I can see make Dwayne Casey's all-time team. Just because Cade's super talented, Sadiq Bey, I mean, he's a knockdown shooter. So I do have Cade Cunningham in the all-time starting lineup for Dwayne Casey's team. I don't have him at point guard, but it's interchangeable with Kyle Lowry. So what would your backcourt be? You got Cade at point. Who you got at the two guard?
I would probably go DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah,
They're so similar. It's crazy. Like a Cade and DeMar DeRozan. Like small forward. I mean, you could put Sean Kemp, but it's kind of like it's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like of all the teams he's coached.
see, I got Cade and Kyle Lowry in the backcourt, DeMar DeRozan at the 3. That's my perimeter players right there. I almost went Pascal, and I almost threw like, I don't know. I thought about throwing Reggie Jackson in there too, just because like at the 2 guard spot. Well, I mean, I'm thinking about him like he was an 18-9 guy in Detroit for like 28 games. That's impressive. He's not Fred VanVleet, but you know that Dwayne Casey loves to use small guards. I mean, we just talked about this with his 3-guard lineups. But yeah, permanently my starting 5 would be Cade, Kyle Lowry, and DeMar DeRozan on the perimeter, and then I got a 4 and a 5. But who do you got in the front court?
So I think I'm gonna switch. I'll keep Sean Kemp at my 3, and then I'll put Dirk Nowitzki at my 4. Because he was an assistant in Dallas.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. I had no idea he was on the Dallas Mavericks team.
Yeah, the 2011 team with Rick Carlisle, who's an assistant coach. So I mean,
you definitely did a little bit more research than me, because my 4 and 5 are the name we won't name at the 4, and then I got Kevin Garnett at the 5. But
yeah,
that's
I'd probably put KG at my 5 for sure. I mean, I feel like my team's kicking your team's ass. No disrespect.
Yeah, no, I mean, we both lack 3-point shooting, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be all within the perimeter. But who would you put on your bench? I've already thought about mine.
Well, I mean, if we're looking at all the teams he's ever been on, I mean, you go Minnesota, Seattle. I'd probably put Gary Payton on mine.
Jesus, I didn't even think about that. So my bench sucks because I just went with the teams that he was the head coach for. So I went Pascal Siakam, Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, Lou Williams, and then the most surprising name on this list, Amir Johnson. So I figured you got to have like a utility player on the bench. Like you got to have a guy that might play like 20 minutes, just rebound.
For sure. I would probably have Jason Terry on my bench too.
God, that's so smart too. Like,
yeah, I mean, like if you think of like an all-time team, like a bench, like you could have Jason Terry, you could have Gary Payton. You could have Rashard Lewis. Shout out to Rashard Lewis, by the way, who's going to be a player development coach for the Pistons now, which we did talk about that a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
Of the Seattle connection. For Raptors, I mean, like, there's been a lot of good Raptors. I mean, I'd even put Samuel Dalembert as my backup center because he was in Dallas for a little bit, too.
Ooh. See, I was also looking at it, too, because, like, I passed on guys like OG Anunoby or like Fred VanVleet because in Norman Powell, because, I mean, they're solid players now, but at the time when Dwayne Casey was the coach, they weren't playing big minutes for him. Like, you know, you could see something, but they just weren't playing those minutes for Dwayne Casey. So I thought, you know, for an all-time team, I can't go on speculation. I got to go with how they were.
So this is what we'll do. You're going to give me your all-time starting 5. I'll give you my all-time starting 5, and we'll make a graphic. We'll post it on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll see who has the better team.
Okay, I'm fine with that. That's fine. Are we only doing Dwayne Casey all-time teams?
Yeah, Dwayne Casey's all-time teams from his days in Seattle, Minnesota, Toronto, and Detroit.
Okay.
We'll do. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a little draft, so it's fair.
Okay, I'm down for that. Like, dude, I'm totally down for that. Also, I wanted to say too, this is a little off topic, but October 16th, I will be doing a fantasy draft on the podcast. Like, just because the draft happens to be during the middle of it, so I'm just gonna have it on a little screen, and I won't share any of the money with anybody that I win if I do happen to win. But everybody watching this and listening can be a part of my fantasy team by giving me info on who to draft when it's my turn.
No, don't help him. I mean, he didn't even draft Jason Terry or freaking.
That's why I need help. I need help, guys. So if you're watching this October 16th, tune in. Draft is at 8 o'clock. We will still be talking about Pistons, and I'll just stop Anthony from time to time. Like, look, I'm on the clock. Who's available? That's what we're going to do. I need help, guys.
Let me ask you this. Are you one of those fantasy guys that draft like 5 Piston players on your fantasy roster?
So I never do that. Like, this was actually the first year in fantasy football that I drafted a Detroit Lion. Like, I've never drafted a Detroit Lion before, ever. And this was the first year I went DeAndre Swift. So, and that's paid off for, 2 weeks. That's cool. But I usually tend to stay away from Detroit players because, like, I'm already emotionally involved already.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want Cade sitting. Well, I do want Cade on my team. But, like, I didn't want, like, like a Reggie Jackson on my team and being like, dude, Reggie, you pissed me off, like my fantasy team. Like, I was already mad enough that the Pistons were bad when he was there. I didn't need him on my fantasy team to get, like, more angry about him. Like, I just needed to be angry just about the Pistons. I didn't need you to be angry because you weren't producing for my fantasy team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only Piston, because I haven't probably played fantasy basketball in a few years, the only Piston I ever drafted was Andre Drummond. And the only reason why I did that is because I knew I was going to get 15 rebounds a night and I would get maybe a block or steal. So Andre Drummond was when he was in Detroit, he was a rebound god. Like, I knew, like, I'm kicking your ass in rebounds this week because I got Drummond and DeAndre Jordan. Good luck.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I see how, like, all the projections and the mocks are going out. It's going to be I haven't played fantasy basketball in a while, but I'm doing it with I'm going to draft like another podcast creator, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But what were your favorite moments from Media Day? Like, out of everything that we discussed and everything that you saw, what were your favorite moments?
I think my favorite moments were actually seeing reporters not interview people through Zoom. I feel like that is such a stress relief off of them because I know a lot of them are like, dude, like, I've been doing interviews like via Zoom for the past like 2 years because of the pandemic and COVID. Like, to me, like, I thought that was like kind of cool getting like that player, reporter interaction back to it. But other than that, I mean, like, typical media day, nothing too crazy. I mean, like, one of my buddies sent me a joke. He's just like, if I hear one more time, I'm gonna freaking break my computer.
So we need to keep a ticker of that, like, for both of us, like one for you, one for me. Anytime we say click it, we'll tally the scores at the end of all of this. No, I don't know. I don't know if I have like a favorite moment, because this was like, I've always paid attention to Media Day, but since I've been doing this podcast with you and since we've been talking so often about it, I really decided to like get in on Media Day, like really see what it was all about. And I just think it's cool that for a little while, like, we gain access into these players' lives at the practice facility. It's not like there's no speculation, there's none of that. It's just them answering their questions and like talking about what it's like gearing up for the season. Like, that was probably my favorite part of Media Day. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, my buddy was like, because I love Cade Cunningham, but like if you listen to him during his media, like any kind of interview, Cade will say like every 20 seconds. He's like, bro, does like Cade have a hard time speaking? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, listen to his interview. He's like, I was just like, dude, like, he's trying to think. Like, I don't know if you've ever been interviewed before, but sometimes it's hard to like think of what you want to say when you're getting interviewed. Like, give him a break. And then I listened to it, and I was just like, oh crap, he's right. He said like 115 times within like a 10-minute interview.
Jeez, I gotta go back and watch that. It's so weird. Like, I don't ever keep track of that stuff anymore unless it's like really blatant and out there. Now, if someone like every few seconds is going then yeah.
I did see that. So, if you guys are listening live, we're reading a comment from a YouTube live stream. Ayton saying he hasn't talked to his coach since the last game.
Do you still, if you could go back, because on Sunday, Anthony dropped his top 10 teams for the Western Conference. Anthony, would you have Phoenix still at number 1, even though Ayton hasn't talked to his coach since the last game?
Yeah, I still do.
Okay. You cracked me up too with that picture you posted of the Charlotte Hornets with LiAngelo Ball being signed. You're 100% right. That is a dumpster fire, and they know LaMelo Ball is out on his way out of Charlotte. They all know that. That signing.
Oh, I know.
Also stupid.
I mean, LiAngelo will lead the team in steals. If you get the joke.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Going back to his college days at UCLA. Wow.
Yes, stealing some fake Gucci watches.
I thought it was underwear, like Hanes underwear.
I don't even know, man. When I told people I think the Pistons are in a better situation to make the play-in than Charlotte. Like, so many people DM me like, dude, you're no way. Like, Charlotte's making the playoffs. Like, you're crazy. But I mean, like, dude, they're such a dumpster fire. Like, why are you signing a guy that can only put up numbers in the G League? Like, when he was here in Detroit, dude, he couldn't even guard like Saban Lee. Like, Saban Lee was giving him buckets.
Oh, if anything, that dude should be overseas playing the forward. Like, I always thought he was more of a power forward, even though he's only like 6'5", like, because he's not fast enough to be on the perimeter with guys. Like, I never even thought he was a high-end Division I talent. I thought he was more of a mid-major. I thought, like, man, dude, you go to Western Kentucky, you're going to average 20-plus points per game. You're going to be able to develop, and then you're probably going to get more of a look to be in the NBA, even though you're not NBA talent. Like, I think it's just a joke. And anytime a team does this, you already lost the player you're trying to keep happy.
Yeah, like he's already unhappy. He was pissed off over the head coaching thing, bringing back Steve Clifford to Charlotte. I mean, him and James Borrego did not see eye to eye. I mean, James Borrego didn't even play James Bouknight, like, at all. And James Bouknight, I promise you, is probably a better option at the shooting guard next to LaMelo than anyone that they had. So it's like, Charlotte's just, they have talent, but they're just not utilizing it. I don't get it.
No, I have no faith in Charlotte this year. I mean, they're probably still going to be a play-in team. Did you know that LaMelo Ball, though, is considered a top 10 fantasy player? Are you surprised by that?
No, he gets a lot of points and assists.
Or I'll drop another name that is considered to be a top 10 fantasy player this year. Tyrese Halliburton.
I could see that because he's probably going to be a top option in Indiana. And Indiana is, I don't even know what they're doing with Miles Turner. Like, are you rebuilding or you're not? Like, it traded away Sabonis. I mean, you have a backcourt of Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin. Like, I just don't know what they're doing.
I don't know either. I mean, I know that I feel like they're trying to speed up the rebuild because they got these, like, NBA-ready rookies, like Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, Chris Duarte. They have all these guys that are just, they're a little bit older, had a lot of college experience before they came into the NBA. I just feel like they're trying to shorten the rebuild instead of just going all in.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I feel like, isn't Buddy Hield still in Indiana now too? Because he was part of the Halliburton trade.
He might still be in Sacramento.
No, I think he's in Indiana because he was part of the
no, you're right.
Sabonis trade. But it's just like, I just don't know what they're doing. Like, if you're gonna keep Miles Turner, okay, cool. But like every other like month, it seems like I see him in a trade report with, like, I don't know, the Lakers or Phoenix or like that was like a sign and trade rumor that they were going to sign and trade DeAndre Ayton for Miles Turner, and Indiana nixed it for whatever reason. And then they offer DeAndre Ayton the same max that Phoenix matched. So it's just like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Did you? I don't know. I would never know what I never know what any team is doing outside of Detroit. Like, because I look at some of these trades and I look at some of the signings. I'm like, I have no idea. Like, it's that bad. Go on.
I'm just a nerd. I pay attention to all the teams.
Well, I mean, like, so I go in like spurts with it all. Like, there are some days where I'm just into NBA news where, like, that's all I'm doing all day. Then, like, I might take like a couple days off where I'm only reading just about the Pistons, and that's it. Did you see this quote, though, from Marvin Bagley? It's by Omari Sankofa II. He says, "This is the best group of teammates I've had. Everybody's getting along. We can talk to each other. We can laugh, joke. But when it's time to get serious, we can get serious and figure out how to get better." I love that from Marvin Bagley, just because he had such a crappy time in Sacramento where they put him in, like, the worst environment, the bad situation. Didn't seem like he was having fun. And look what he's contributing to a team just because he feels more comfortable with the people that are around him. It's incredible, man. Detroit is the place to be for professional basketball.
Yeah, I think getting out of Sacramento is just getting a monkey off his back, honestly. I mean, being such a high lottery pick and, like, I believe he was drafted in the Luka and Trey drafts. I mean, those guys are superstars. And he's kind of just like, I'm not talking negatively about Bagley, but I think we can all agree that he's not on their level in terms of production. But he's still a very good player, and he contributes a lot for this Detroit Pistons team. I mean, he was averaging 14-7 in a bench/starting role. That's still really good. That's 6-man type numbers. And to your point, I think it's just he feels more welcome and more comfortable playing with the Detroit Pistons and playing for a coach that's going to put him in a position to win and not, I don't even, Sacramento, like I said, we've talked about them before on the podcast. They're just not a very well-run organization. I mean, things can change maybe with Mike Brown. They did have a really good offseason. Maybe they can push for a playoff spot if everything goes right. But, I mean, I'm happy Marvin Bagley's here. We didn't really have to give anything up to even get him. So it's a win-win for us.
Yeah, I'm going to be – I love the Marvin Bagley signing, man. The only thing I didn't like when he was the Marvin Bagley signing, the Marvin Bagley trade, the only thing I didn't like about it is how many people were coming out of the woodworks as, Marvin Bagley experts. I remember one guy was like, man, he only played 17 games in Sacramento. Give him a break this past year, only 17 games. I'm like, dude, if you're going to be talking about Marvin Bagley this much, get it right. It was 30 games and 17 starts for the Sacramento Kings in his final season. If we're going to pretend to be an expert, get all your facts straight. That's all I want. That's
It's funny. Every time I'll type out a projection. I didn't have Marvin Bagley in my starting lineup, and people were like, why have two of your lob threats on the bench in Duren and Bagley, right? I just don't feel comfortable putting him in the starting lineup because I just don't think that would utilize him in the correct way because defensively, he's not the best defender, and I feel like Isaiah Stewart kind of provides better defense than Marvin Bagley. And I feel like if he had a Duren and a Bagley as your 4-5 combo, Duren could protect Bagley a hell of a lot more than Bagley starting in the lineup, being in the starting lineup with the Pistons.
I think people are just over talking about how important a lob threat is. It is important to have a lob threat. You need to have some vertical spacing. But people have put such an emphasis on Marvin Bagley being able to catch lobs and think we need this in the starting lineup. Marvin Bagley averaging 20 minutes per game gives you the same production as Marvin Bagley off the bench averaging 22, 23, 24 minutes per game. I would rather have him coming off the bench and giving me 14 and 7 than him starting, struggling defensively, probably getting into foul trouble and still averaging 14 and 7, but just playing more minutes. Marvin Bagley is so much more valuable as a six-man, as a scorer off the bench than he ever will be as a starter in the NBA.
Well, not to mention he's going to have Killian off the bench with him. And Killian's such a pass-first point guard. Cade can, throw dimes, but he's not always looking to pass 100% of the time. Killian, the way he plays, he's going to look to get Marvin Bagley so many touches to the point where he could probably have a career high in points with Killian as his point guard.
Dude, if we get one top 10 highlight of Marvin Bagley and Killian Hayes off the bench, I will buy you a teal jersey of any player you want on the current Pistons. I'll do that for you, Anthony. I will buy if we get one top 10 highlight of Killian Hayes and Marvin Bagley off the bench, I will buy Anthony, my co-host and the creator of the Pistons Talk. I will buy him a jersey. I promise you guys that. It's all recorded. It's on here now. It's on wax.
That's yeah. Like I said, you can, and I know it's probably going to be Isaiah Livers jersey anyways, but I appreciate it.
It will be. It'll definitely be a Livers. There's no question. I'm not even giving you a choice. If I ever buy you a jersey, it will be an Isaiah Livers jersey no matter what. Anytime I buy you a jersey, it will be an Isaiah Livers no matter what. Even if it's on a different team, I don't even care if it's the Atlanta Hawks. I am buying you a jersey that says Livers on the back, and you will wear it.
So did you catch Juwan Howard at Pistons practice?
I did see that, and I'm surprised that it's not being talked about more by people.
I feel like he does it every year. And like maybe if we didn't have John Beeline on the staff, I would probably be overreacting more.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's the culture that Troy Weaver's building. It's just, it's a community. Like, he invites everybody to, come to practices. Like, I saw him during the Lions preseason camp with Brad Holmes, like, chilling out there. Like, all the Lions went out there. I think, like, all these rebuilding teams are supporting each other, and I think that's something that, like you said earlier in the podcast, like, you wish you would have saw that more during the go in the work era. But I just feel like kind of the culture that they're building, and they're all supporting each other, all four teams.
Did we ever even see like anybody from the going to work squad like wear any other like pro Detroit teams like jerseys or uniforms? Like, I mean, I don't know if we're seeing it now, but I mean, at least Sadiq Bey's embracing the teal before it was a thing again.
Yeah, I mean, like, you would see, like, Steve Yzerman, like, at a Tigers game wearing, like, a Tigers jersey and stuff like that. Like, you saw it. It's just, like, kind of like how I pointed earlier. Like, there was not, like, social media during that time. So it's just, like, you can look for it. It's out there now because of, like, all the, these photography sites that have all these pictures from, like, 20, 30 years ago. But it's, like, it wasn't documented like it is today.
So Juwan Howard, he's in Detroit, probably hanging out with Bayline, like you were saying, but also Isaiah Livers. That's his guy. He played at the University of Michigan. Do you think though Juwan Howard there's any chance he coaches the Detroit Pistons at some point? If you had to put odds on it, you're like, probably like 3,000 to 1. I don't know. I don't know if it's
I don't see it. I'm still sticking to my guns. I think Jerry Stackhouse is your next head coach of the Detroit Pistons.
Wow. I can't wait till we get to talk about coaches. Because do you feel like, since we're on the topic of coaches, do you feel like Dwayne Casey's, like now that the team is in better position to compete, the hot seat is going to be hotter for him this upcoming season?
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to have to watch a preseason game to see how they gel. And it's like they all said in the presser, we want to compete. We want to compete. We know that the city of Detroit is hungry for a winner. They want their basketball team to be winning. But I think the expectations among fans is really mixed. Like, you have some fans saying, tank one more year for Victor. You have other fans saying, come on, like, we've been rebuilding for 3 years. Let's try to push in for the playoffs. Let's try to push in for that plan. I've said on this podcast, I think the ceiling for this team is a play-in tournament. I've said it for the past couple of months, and I think they can make a play-in tournament because I feel like they have the talent, and they really put a lot of games together at the end of the season where, man, they were like less than 10-point games. Like, I think there was a record last year, like, all their losses were, like, under 8 points or something like that. So, I mean, once they learn how to win, this is going to be a really fun basketball team.
Yeah, I was saying 2 years ago they struggled in the third quarter, and I'm like, all right, they're just 1 year away from struggling in the fourth quarter, and then they're just going to be struggling, like, to close the games in overtime. But once they start to figure out the fourth quarter, yeah, we're going to have a lot more wins on this squad, definitely. No, but I think like this season is more of a prove it year for Dwayne Casey, where it's like, okay, these last 2 years, you had a bunch of rookies, had a bunch of young guys. We were rebuilding the team. This team is ready to compete, maybe not at the level that a lot of us want, which is like deep playoff runs, but this roster is designed to compete. I mean, the Bogan trade, that proves it. You know what I'm saying? You bring in another guy to create some more space. So I think this is the first year Dwayne Casey will ever have. This is the first year Dwayne Casey. It's like it's a prove it year with these guys. Like, prove to me that you deserve to be the coach here for a few more seasons. Like, prove to me that I can rely on you in that seat to get this team where I think they should be going. I think that's what this season, like, even though we're all just like, I mean, we're being kind of cute this offseason. We're like, oh, we don't know. As long as they're competing, we're going to have a lot of fun. But the real grittiness of it is, dude, this is the first year for Dwayne Casey where the expectations are real expectations. It's not just let's develop these guys and see what they can do. Now it's crunch time. Now it's time like, okay, this roster is set. We know they're young, but these guys are ready to play. They're ready to compete. Get me into the playoffs.
If this is how I will know if the Pistons are serious about making the playoffs. Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, and Bojan Bogdanovic are in your starting lineup. That will be the ultimate test. If they're not, all three of them are not in the starting lineup, then that just tells me that they're focusing on development. If they're focusing on winning and maximizing a playoff spot, then they will put Noel in at the center. They'll put Bogdanovic in at either of the forward spot, and they'll put Burks down there at the 2. But like I said, I don't see that happening. I think they're gonna, go full youth movement with the mix of veterans and just continue to develop winning habits and continue to, show these guys what it takes to win. It kind of reminds me of the Memphis Grizzlies, of how, they rebuilt with John Morant and Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane and Dylan Brooks. Like, they weren't winning games right off the bat, but they were learning how to win. They brought in a coach in Taylor Jenkins who, to me, one of my favorite coaches in the NBA. I mentioned it last Sunday. I think that once the Pistons kind of find a guy that kind of understands it, how to win and how to, get the most out of these guys, then we'll see a playoff team. But I think for right now, Casey is just kind of a Band-Aid coach until the Pistons decide, hey, we're ready to compete. We have enough talent. Let's go compete for an Eastern Conference title.
Yeah, I just think this is more of the year where it's like, look, we're obviously still going to develop, but we have enough talent on this team to like make a play-in push. Maybe not the playoffs, maybe not like a top 6 team that you need, but like a play-in, almost playoffs. I think that's realistic. But again, like to my original point was just, I just think this is the first year Dwayne Casey, like he might feel the seat getting a little warmer. And yeah. I know he has 1 year left on his contract, so it wouldn't surprise me if like this year goes bad because the expectations are going to be higher because it's another year with these guys. That the expectations are going to be higher. It wouldn't surprise me if they move Dwayne Casey into like more of a front office role, with 1 year left on his deal and start looking for a new coach if he's not already on this bench already.
Yeah, that's why when I looked at Rashard Lewis as an assistant, I was like, okay, there's some assistants on this team where you kind of look of it that they could possibly be a coach, like Jordan Brink, who's an assistant who coached the Motor City Cruise, did a hell of a job coaching the Motor City Cruise, the Detroit Pistons Summer League team this summer. He did a really good job coaching them. Like I said, I'm still hopeful for Jerry Stackhouse. I mean, he's coming around the Pistons, unveiling the teal. There might be something there. You never know.
Oh, but dude, if they put like a Coach Stackhouse on the back of his jersey, oh man, that'd be wild. It doesn't seem like a Pistons thing to do, though. I don't think they would do that.
Yeah, to a lot of people's point, like I just don't think there's a hot seat with Dwayne Casey. Tom Gores is not an though. Tom Gores is an owner with coaches. He doesn't really put too much expectations on him. I mean, look how long it took him to fire Stan Van Gundy.
Yeah, but we didn't have Troy Weaver with Stan Van Gundy.
No, we had God, who the hell did we have? Jeff Bauer.
We sure did. Jeff Bauer, amazing. No,
Phoenix, by the way.
No, are people saying they don't think there's the hot seat for Dwayne Casey? I'm not reading the comments right now.
Yeah, a lot of people think he's safe. They to your point, they think that he's going to be in a front office role, which I believe James Edwards, the third, did report that over a year ago that he wouldn't be surprised if Dwayne did get a front office role, which I think would make sense. He's one of the older coaches in the NBA, and I feel like he still wants to be involved some way in basketball, not coaching every day, because I mean, like that. Coaching is such a tiring job. Like all the stuff you have to prepare for night in and night out, and half the stuff you prepare for you don't even have to worry about. It's just such a tedious job.
Yeah, and like in basketball, if you're not one of those select players, the coaches just get the blame for it. Like it doesn't matter. Like Cade could have like the worst sophomore year ever, and it will still be put on Dwayne Casey by most fans.
Yeah, because fans look at coaching as like probably 100% of like it's just a results league. If you win, you're a good coach. If you lose, you're a bad coach, and that's all fans care about. They care about the W's. They don't care about the L's.
This is true. This is true. I was just thinking of like a tweet that I saw about the Lions where some guy was like, if you want the Lions to win, you need to get to a new franchise or something like that. I thought it was crazy. I'm like, damn, dude, you're calling out fans because they want their team to win? That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Like, hey, it's the Detroit Lions. We're used to losing, so don't ever get used to winning because it's never going to happen.
Okay. Oh, we do got a question, which
About to ask.
I'm a nerd and I actually know this. Who's the coach that took over when Casey was sick last year? He did a good job. That would be Rex Kalamian, who's still on the staff. He's the bald white guy.
And he's the Armenian national team head coach, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Know a little bit about him. Rex. Great name. Don't know what it's short for.
That's an interesting name. I see him in coaching circles all the time. Sam Cassell.
Yeah, I like Sam Cassell. Like, I'm really surprised that he's not a head coach. I don't know why that is.
Maybe he doesn't want to. I feel like he's been an assistant before. I've seen his name in like assistant coaches, before. But I mean, like I said, we can go down that road when it does happen. I know a lot of fans like they want like the Mark Jackson, the Chauncey Billups, the probably not Udoka anymore, but I mean, like they did want Udoka before. But I mean, like I said, time will come when the Pistons have to make that decision. But I don't think it's going to be this year or next.
Didn't people want like Jerome Allen though? Wasn't he just signed to the Pistons bench a couple seasons ago from Boston? Or my point?
Yeah, you are correct. Jerome Allen did come from the Celtics. A lot of Pistons fans assume that he's going to be next in line for a head coaching job. I mean, he really well could be. But I think that would be so unlike Tom Gores to do that. Because
go on, my bad.
Yeah, like Tom Gores has never like looked at a head coaching job. Like you see all the interviews or the tweets from Woj. Like it's always a big name. Like he tried getting Tom Izzo a few years ago. Stan Van Gundy, Mike Budenholzer. He tried getting like he's always going after the top tier coaches. Like he's not going to go after some small fish.
He who he should bring into Detroit, back to Detroit? Sean Sweeney.
Yeah. Is he in Dallas still?
Yeah, he signed there last offseason, and that's the guy that Giannis credits for helping his career. Like, he credits Sean Sweeney. I don't know how much, but I know that Sean Sweeney did help, like, in the development department with Giannis. And, it was – I don't know. I don't really know much about what coaches do, though, for, like, in terms of development. I know how they do it, like, playing basketball. Like, I remember being a kid and, like, a coach showed me how to do it. But at the NBA, it's kind of weird when you hear like development, they're already pro.
Yeah, like for like the NBA coaches, I know we're nerding out right now, but like there's kind of like tiers of coaching. So like you have your head coach, obviously, you have your 3 assistant coaches, and then you have player development coaches that just develop on whether it's you have a shooting coach, you have a rebounding coach, you have a strength and conditioning coach, you have a mental health coach. Like there's more tiers to it. So in terms of like, to your point, like, high school, like you probably didn't have all that. You just had like, a coach and maybe an assistant coach. That's it. Yeah. And to the NBA level, I mean, like they have a coach for everything. I mean, they have like literally like a therapist, a licensed therapist, just to be a therapist for the Pistons. They have people that literally like cook them 3 square meals a day and they still go to McDonald's. Like, it's pretty funny.
Dude, I have a friend that's like, I don't know how this dude does it. You reminded me because you said McDonald's. This kid eats McDonald's every day, but he works out like incredibly hard. This guy, even though he eats McDonald's, he can walk up to a pole and turn himself and look like a flag. And like he's on the McDonald's diet. He's like, man, as long as you eat McChickens, you're good, man. Just stay away from the fries. He's like, and you'll get toned. That's his secret for working out, is eating McDonald's like that. But also, I was kind of joking about the development. It was just more of like, these guys are pros. What do they really need to work on? But obviously you still got to get better, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's some players on this team that can only dribble with one hand. So, I mean, you gotta develop some shit, bro.
Jeez, dude. Oh, we got any more questions from people?
Not really too much. It's just like we kind of like ripped the Band-Aid with all the coaching stuff. Like people would love Juwan Howard, which I think he's gonna stay at Michigan. I don't really think he's gonna leave for an NBA job because I feel like he's gonna have a job for life at Michigan. Like NBA jobs are just, I don't know. Like, do you really want to leave and maybe get fired in 2 years?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I feel like the way Juwan Howard coaches and like the way he connects with players, that's more important on the college level than it is the NBA level. Like, it just means more, I guess. Like that's why like Beeline struggled in the NBA because like you can't tell a professional basketball player like, hey, if you don't run this or play defense hard, like I'm going to bench you. You're not going to bench an NBA player for doing that. Like people will step in and say, hey, look, we paid this guy too much money. You can't just bench him for a couple of games to teach him a lesson. Like it doesn't work that way like it does in college.
I know, a bunch of slugs.
You got to be careful. People might mishear you when you say slugs.
I know that to me is probably the all-time quote I've ever seen. He called them thugs, and he said, "No, I said slugs." I was like, "Come on, bro!" Like his time in Cleveland was such a dumpster fire.
I don't even know why he wanted to do that. I mean, I'm glad that he did because it brought in Juwan Howard, but I don't. That was such a mess of him to leave to go to Cleveland. Out of all of the teams you could have gone, if you were Beeline, like you should have gone to like a veteran team, like not a young. I mean, I get why he'd go to a young team, but because they're closer to the college age players that he was coaching. But I feel like Beeline, like it was more like you had to go to a veteran squad, guys that knew how to be pros, and they were mature compared to their younger coworkers.
Okay, we do have a question. This is right up your alley. Bojan gonna take Livers minutes.
Dude, I don't even want to think about that. Like Anthony doesn't want to think about Cade leaving Detroit. I don't want to think about Livers losing minutes. I think the guy that loses the most minutes with Bojan being here is Hami Diallo. And we talked about this on Sunday. I think it's Hami. I think he loses the minutes. I don't think Livers does because Livers can get minutes at the 3 and the 4. Like he has a pretty diverse skill set. We saw in Summer League, this dude was actually bringing the ball up and being kind of like a relief ball handler on there. Like he's going to be able to, he's not just a spot up shooter and a defensive player. Like this dude communicates. He knows how to be a connector. Like he's always talking to people. He's solid defensively. He can hit shots. He can bring the ball up the floor. The dude's a complete player. He's not losing minutes to Bojan. He may not get as many starts, but he's not losing minutes. There's going to be minutes for Isaiah Livers. Us real fans of Isaiah Livers, we don't have to worry. He will be out on the floor playing for the Pistons.
Yeah, all 10 of you out there.
Dude, we're strong though. For only 10, we're loud and we're strong.
I'm sure he has more than 10 fans, man. But like, I think you need to change your bio, president of the Isaiah Livers fan club.
Is there a Twitter account with the Isaiah Livers fan club? Because if not,
for sure. There's so many. Like I got a follower today on Twitter called Cade Cunningham Lover. I was just like. Like some of these kids on Twitter, man, it's pretty funny. They have like these avatars of Pistons players, and they're such diehard Pistons fans, and it's cool to see. But sometimes like their ats are just like, dude, like what?
I was just reading this earlier before we started doing the podcast, and I saw someone had tweeted out that they don't want to see not long-term Pistons fans jumping on the bandwagon. How do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like fans that haven't been supporting this team when they were bad should be allowed to support the team now that they're going to be good?
I'm never going to kind of gatekeep. If you want to be a fan, you want to be a fan. Like, do I keep receipts? Do I see all the fans that weren't here when we had Reggie Jackson? Absolutely. Do I see Pistons Twitter, Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham avatars 95% of the time? Yup. But hey, man, like, if you want to be on the bandwagon, sure. But, like, just know I keep receipts and I know who are real fans and who aren't.
Okay, so I saw someone posted this too, and I'm just going to ask you, like, I'm not making fun of them at all, but because I know they haven't been, like, a lifetime Pistons fan. But I saw a poll where they were asking who's a more beloved. Tell me you haven't been a Pistons fan for a long time because you're asking this question. Who's more beloved in Detroit, Ben Wallace or Chauncey Billups? It's Ben Wallace. Like, that's the easy answer. No, stop. It's Ben Wallace.
That's kind of close. I don't know, man.
More beloved? No, come on. It's totally Ben Wallace over Chauncey Billups.
See, I wouldn't choose.
You wouldn't? I chose Ben Wallace. That's where most fans are going. It's Ben Wallace. It has to be Ben Wallace.
See, it's kind of like a couple weeks ago you were saying Richard Hamilton was the weakest link. Like,
I said the starting five before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I don't like having those conversations because I don't want to pick. Like, can't they all just be loved equally? Like, come on.
It's okay, but we didn't have bald caps when we were at the games. We had afros. Like, he was clearly more beloved in Detroit, Ben Wallace was, than over Chauncey Billups. If they were giving out bald caps, then yeah, I would say it's close, but they weren't. They were giving us the hair. They were giving us the afro. Like, Ben Wallace was the Detroit Pistons.
Well, see, we have mixed reactions because people say Ben and people say Chauncey. Like, it's between those two, like, they're probably the two biggest contributors out of that whole championship team. But we do have more questions. Do you guys think Corey Joseph will be playing less minutes this year?
Dude, I mean, people are going to hate me when I say this, but hell no. That dude he's probably playing a career high. What is Corey Joseph's career high in minutes? I got to see this.
I can look it up. Let me see.
Oh, my gosh. Ooh, okay.
It's like 30-ish.
I got to see this. I got to pull this up, too.
Let's see.
Oh, 27 with Indiana. 26 with Detroit. That's his second highest. But it was only 19 games, so.
Yeah, I would probably say he's going to be around 15 to 20. Like around there. It's just, it's hard because it's like you want Jaden Ivey to start, but like if Jaden Ivey is making mistakes, you know who's going to be backing up Jaden Ivey. It's not going to be Killian. It's going to be Corey Joseph. So it's like,
Let's think about this for a moment, though. Let's just say the backcourt is Cade and Ivy to start the season. I believe it's going to be Cade and Alec Burke. But then you have Killian and Alec Burke coming off the bench. So, yeah, maybe Killian – I mean, I don't expect him to play 24 minutes per game. I don't think he's going to get close to that. So, yeah, I would say I do think he's going to play less minutes this year. But I still think he's going to, like – he's going to be a contributor. Like, he's going to play probably bigger minutes at the beginning of the season versus towards the end, you know. But – yeah, I think he's going to play less minutes this year. There's just, I mean, you got Ivy, Burks, Killian Hayes, Cade. They're all going to get minutes at that guard spot.
Yeah, like, I think it's interesting, but I would probably say, I just know Casey. He loves his vets, bro. Like, I know he's going to play them so many minutes, and it's just going to drive fans crazy. Dribble for 15 seconds.
Dude, when I watch Corey Joseph, he's the only guy I think, like, you know what? I could play like that guy in the NBA. He's the only guy I think I could actually play like in the NBA.
I could go to a Lifetime right now, and there's a guy that plays like Corey Joseph. 100%.
I hated playing with those guys, by the way. I hated playing with them. Because they're always like, they're good, but they're ball hogs. They don't like to pass. And Corey Joseph looks for his shot a lot. String guard. God.
I mean, even if you watched him in Toronto, I mean, like, that's what he did like crazy. Like, he would just, dribble it, and then he wouldn't pass it. And that's just his play style. He's not going to change it. But hopefully, Jaden Ivey just plays so well we don't have to see him at all.
Man, hopefully Alec Burke buries him on the bench, too. Like,
for sure.
Alec Burke, Killian. Bury Corey Joseph. That's all we want. Bury him. So you think that's it for the podcast tonight?
I think so. We're going to probably share this one. It's not really a question, but same here, bro. Same here.
Oh, my gosh. It would be so crazy if they're like, man, viewership goes down when Dwayne Casey makes a substitution.
All right. Well, why don't you sign us off and tell people where they can listen and subscribe to the podcast too?
All right, guys, thank you for listening to the Pistons Talk Podcast. I'm Lance Caprosi. Follow me on Twitter at Lance Caprosi. Follow my co-host, my man, Anthony, at Pistons Talk, if you're not already, across all social media platforms. Then do us a favor, go to Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to the Pistons Talk Podcast. Leave a review, drop a comment, but more importantly, tell a Pistons fan.